Recently, I had a situation that made me realize that my thoughts are actually sending me into fight or flight, specifically my beliefs and expectations about the future. And as I thought about this more deeply, I realized there are a lot of different ways that our expectations for the future affect our lives, as well as the lives of other people. So today, that's what we're going to talk about. Okay, so here's the incident that happened. I was holding a hand warmer, as one does in late June, inside their home that doesn't have AC, whatever, Raynaud syndrome problems. And for a moment, it was going to slip off of my lap. And in that moment, I had just like an immediate fight or flight reaction. I immediately started to feel a rush through me, my heart beating fast, because I anticipated that the hand warmer was going to come crashing on the ground and make a loud sound. But it never did fall on the ground. It never reached the floor. It was just on the cushion of the chair. And I realized in that moment that our expectations about what's going to happen next in life can send us into fight or flight. They can impact our physiological responses to things, even if those things don't actually end up happening. And they also affect our emotions, our behaviors, and the behaviors of other people. Now, why is this? Why do our expectations determine the way our lives turn out? I mean, part of it is survival, right? Like, our bodies are created to predict possible dangers, possible threats, in order to circumvent them and survive and continue our species. Our minds and our bodies are built to anticipate what could go wrong so that we can prevent it from happening. But on a deeper level than that, we would rather feel right than see reality for what it truly is. We want to feel in control. We want to feel like we have some ability to predict our outcomes, because when we feel out of control, we also feel powerless and helpless. And it's not a very good feeling. We don't like to feel like we can't predict what's going to happen or be able to protect ourselves. So we want to feel right more than we want pretty much anything. So how do our expectations for the future affect our lives? How do they color our experiences, our physiological symptoms, our emotions, our behaviors, and the behaviors of other people? Starting off with the physiological arousal. In the example I gave earlier, I anticipated that there was going to be a loud sound, which immediately gave me a physiological reaction and an emotion of fear, even when nothing happened. There was no stimulus. The stimulus was my expectation. The stimulus was my thoughts about what was going to happen. Now, there are a lot of different theories of how emotions work. Some people say that it's the physiological arousal that comes first. Other people say that it's the emotion that comes first, the cognitive appraisal of the trigger. Different theories have different evidence for them. I'm not going to get bogged down in the details of these different theories right now. One thing that I can say for certain, at least for me in that situation, my thoughts came first, immediately followed by physiological reaction and emotion. Let's think about this on like an everyday basis. Let's say that you're going into a presentation with the mindset of, I'm going to do amazing on this, versus I'm going to do terribly on this. Your expectations are going to determine your bodily reaction. If you truly believe that you're going to do amazing, you're probably going to feel a little bit more on the relaxed side. If you think that you're going to bomb the presentation, your body is going to be very tense, very physiologically aroused, and therefore more prone to anxiety. How do our expectations affect our emotions? A large part of emotions is the physiological arousal. Like I said, for me, the emotion and the physiological arousal co-occurred during that moment. They happened at the same time, pretty much. So our expectations for the future impact our physiological reactions, which thereby impacts our emotions. That's why, for instance, people that have Botox, that aren't very facially expressive, report genuinely not feeling those emotions as deeply, because it's that biofeedback that they're not getting. Or that's why when you force yourself to smile when you're feeling sad, it actually makes you a little bit less sad. What our body feels goes into informing what emotion we're going to feel. But I think our expectations for the future also directly impact our emotions independently of our physiological arousal. For example, I don't feel a lot of physiological symptoms about my upcoming move in just 10 days. Actually, by the time I post this, I probably will be in my new home already. But my expectations do affect my emotions. For instance, if I were to go into this move with the mindset of, there's going to be so much that comes up that I wasn't expecting, it's going to be so catastrophic, everything's going to be so stressful, I'm going to be a lot more stressed and anxious than if I take the current approach I'm taking, which is, it's all going to work out. It's going to be fine. There might be hiccups, but I'll come out on top in the end. And our expectations for the future also affect our future behavior. A huge part of this is self-fulfilling prophecies. If we believe that things aren't going to work out for us, we're going to look for evidence to make that happen in our minds. And what we perceive as reality is our reality. There is no objective reality that we can feel. We can only feel our subjective reality. That's why, for instance, people who believe that they're attractive are actually perceived as more attractive because they exude that confidence that makes other people think, oh, this person thinks they got something. They might be right about that. Or if you've been told your whole life that you're bad at science, for instance, and you actually come to believe that and to expect that you're going to do poorly in science, you might avoid going into a scientific field even if maybe you were okay at it. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Our expectations also affect other people's behavior. I want to read you a little bit of a snippet from this book I read a few weeks ago called Subliminal. So it talks about something called the Rosenthal effect, named after the researcher who discovered how teachers' expectations for their students impacts how those students do. So the teachers were told that some of the students were gifted, and those teachers, of course, treated the gifted students as if they were actually more gifted, and those students actually performed better, even though they weren't actually more gifted than the others. He says, whether or not we wish to, we communicate our expectations to others, and they often respond by fulfilling those expectations. Teachers' expectations greatly affect their students' academic performance, even when the teachers try to treat them impartially. Among those who'd been singled out as brilliant, about 80% had an increase of at least 10 points. What's more, about 20% of the gifted group gained 30 or more IQ points, while only 5% of the other children gained that many. Labeling children as gifted had proved to be a powerful self-fulfilling prophecy. So what does this mean for us? I think although it's important to be realistic about people and understand that everyone has deficiencies as well as strengths, we don't necessarily need to treat them leading with their deficiencies. If you give someone the impression, for instance, that they can never do something, they might prove you right. If you treat somebody like they are very respectful, and you yourself are very respectful, you might find that they might treat you with a lot more respect than if you had treated them like they were disrespectful. There's an effect called stereotype threat, where people who are given a test after being told that their specific identity group holds some deficiency in that particular field score lower than people who aren't told that. Again, they fulfill those prophecies, those negative beliefs that other people have about how they're going to do. It's why when somebody has verbally abused you for so long and they keep telling you, you're not good at this, no one will want you, no one will love you like I do, victims actually start to believe it. And then they go on to end up in relationships with other people who also reinforce that same notion. Our expectations for other people impact them, whether or not we mean for it to. When we expect good things of people, we might be pulling them up. When we expect poor things of people, they might feel inclined on an unconscious level to prove us right. So how can we use this to our advantage? One thing that I try is I always expect that things will work out for me. Always. Like I said, there might be hiccups, there might be things I wasn't anticipating, difficult experiences, stressors, even traumas, but I will always come out on top. I will always grow stronger because of it. If you expect this to be the case, then it probably will be the case. If you expect for things to beat you down, then it's going to be a lot harder to get up. Also, expect good things of others. Don't give people the impression that you think so terribly of them, especially if they're in an important relationship to you. If you expect good things of others, they might feel inclined to prove you right. Also expect good things from yourself, because again, unconsciously you're going to want to prove yourself right. You're going to want to be right more than you're going to want to be accurate. Things are always going to work out for the better. I've been doing this a lot recently where I try to reframe anything in my head as, here's how this could be a good thing. Even things that are less than ideal, I'll always try to think about a door that opened because of that less than ideal thing that happened. And listen, it doesn't need to be true, It doesn't need to be accurate because again, maybe the world isn't a benevolent place. I deep down do think that the world kind of just balances out. It's polarity. There's good and there's bad. But I choose to focus on the good because that benefits me. Because then I will have primed myself with positive self-fulfilling prophecies and with good expectations about the future that improve my life rather than take away from it. Let me know what you thought about this. Take care.